Everyone, this is Shelly with Shelly's Images, and for our tutorial today I thought I would show you how to make this three-dimensional origami star fold for an ornament. I've made a couple of these to put on our Christmas tree and really think that they turned out so pretty, so I thought I would show them to you. I think these would also be pretty done in a smaller size and used as a package topper instead of the traditional bows. So I can see lots of different ways that you can use this project for your Christmas decorating and even gifts. Make a set of 6 of these to give to Grandma. I'm sure that she would really love those. For the one that I finished and took the picture of, I used our pine image and actually did some gold embossing on it too to decorate it. So if you want to make the project yourself, that's the image that's used on that. But to get started, what we need is 2 6x6" pieces of pattern paper. My beads are over here and trying to get away from me. So 2 6x6" pieces of pattern paper, and I would suggest not using your heaviest weight pattern paper because it just doesn't fold quite as easily. So to get started, we are going to begin to make our folds. And our very first fold is just going to be to fold the paper in half, just match up the corners and fold it. And all along the way I'm going to be using the bone folder to make nice crisp folds, because those folds are going to become really important as we get a little bit farther down the line with our project. The next fold is just to fold it in half again. Again, use the bone folder, and you can see now that I have a piece of paper folded in half both directions, giving me 4 squares. The next folds are going to be to fold the corners to the opposite corner. So match it up. And again, use the bone folder. Now we're going to open it and fold it again, corner to opposite corner. And that gives us all the folds that we need to create the bottom layer of our star. Once we open it back up, you can see that we now have 8 triangles that we've created with our folds. I'm going to turn it over because we have 4 cuts that we need to make. And the cuts that we're going to make are going to be made on the straight sides of our square, not on the points or the diagonal folds that we did. So I'm going to get my ruler and measure for the cuts that I need to make. If you're making yours a different size than the 6x6, basically you just want to cut about a little less than halfway up to the center of your project. So halfway on my project would be 3 inches to the center, be 1.5 inches halfway up that section. I'm going to make my marks for my cuts at 1 3/8 inches. And if you're laughing at me now, and I know some of my design team girls probably are because I've talked before about how I'm such a measurer, but I think that it helps you to get a more uniform project, especially with a project like this where you're creating the legs or the points of your star. I think it gives you a more uniform project at the end, so they can laugh. It's okay. I can take it. Okay, so I have all 4 of my little marks made there. I'm going to take my scissors now and cut up to each of those marks. Again, only on the straight sides of my paper. I don't want to make any cuts at all on those diagonal folds that go to the corners. Okay, that's all the cutting that we need to do. Now each one of these little pieces, each one of these corners are going to become one of the points to our star. What we're going to do is take each little flap going to the diagonal fold and fold it up just right to that diagonal fold that you made. And the most important part of this fold is probably this point down here, because those will be the actual point of your star when you finish. So you kind of want to make sure that that comes to a nice point there. Repeat that on all 4 of the points all the way around. Okay, once we have all 4 of our points folded, I'm going to go back with the bone folder and again give a nice crease to all of those folds. And I think that you'll see as we go to the next step why that's so important, to really give those a nice press and fold. Okay, our next step is to add adhesive. And what I'm going to use, you can of course use your favorite adhesive. I'm going to go ahead and use the ATG, and I'm just going to add adhesive to 1 flap of each of these legs. I'm going to go ahead and go all the way around on mine just because it's easier for the video. Okay, and now to make each individual leg of the star, we're going to press the side with the adhesive behind this other flap all the way over to the opposite fold. You'll be able to feel it with your finger as it gets in there, and then press your adhesive down, and you can see that that makes 1 spoke of our star. And we'll keep going all the way around. And that finger in the middle kind of does help seal that adhesive down all the way down into the point of your star. Okay, so that's 1 layer of our star all finished. I've already done the top layer, or another layer, and so you can kind of see how these will begin to fit together, and all the little cuts really kind of make it so that they kind of seal together. I decided on my star that I wanted to decorate with some embossing, and I'm going to go ahead and show you just 1 little piece of that today, because what I hear from crafting friends is that a lot of the videos don't show some of these basic steps, and for somebody who's brand new, you know, hasn't thought about trying embossing, maybe this will give them the desire to go out and give this a try, because I think embossing is really a nice addition to a lot of your paper craft projects. So what I'm going to do is use my Versa marker. This is kind of a nice way to get the Versamark ink right where you want it. If you have the Versamark ink pad, of course you can just kind of stamp along the edge and kind of get the same effect, but I really like my marker. And in the way that designing projects goes, I found that when I was doing the first one, that I kind of liked the look of the extra embossing powder toward the points of the stars. So I go ahead and just kind of scribble along some extra Versamark there too. And you can see that this magazine sheet is what I always use when I'm glittering or embossing, and I've kept this, I don't even know how old this magazine sheet is, but it's just got a fold along the middle of it that helps me to pour all of my embossing powder or glitters back into the containers. So if you're wondering what this random magazine sheet is, that's what it is. And anytime that I'm embossing, I try to keep a paintbrush handy to get any mistakes off, or kind of sweep away the extra. So I'm going to get rid of my little sheet here, because the embossing gun has a way of spraying the powder everywhere. And I'm going to go ahead and emboss it for you. You can kind of see that the embossing powder kind of bubbles up and lays out flat. That's what you're looking for. At that point you know that it's adhered on there and is going to stay for you. Okay, so of course on your project you would go ahead and do all of 8 legs of your star, but for the video I'm not going to do that. Now we're ready to attach our star together. I think to make it easier I'm going to go ahead and punch some holes for what will be our hanger in the next project. And I know that the best hanger for me, or what I liked when I was hanging mine on the trees, was to just kind of punch a hole about halfway down the 2 legs of your star, like that. So that's going to be ready for our next step. I'll show you how we do that in a minute. The step to hold these together, I think that there's a couple of different ways probably that you can do this. The way that I ended up with was actually wiring the pieces together. So just take a pin and push it down in the middle of your star and kind of wiggle it around so that you have enough room for our wire to go through. We'll do that on both the top and bottom layer. And so the next thing that we need is the wire that we're going to use. I have silver and gold wire on these big paddles like this, and I just keep it handy because I like to do a lot of different bead and wire work on my projects. But you want to cut a fairly long piece for your project, and you'll see again why in a second as we get to this next step. But first we'll just want to put one bead about halfway up our wire and then seal it down. That's going to hold our bead at the end. And for the next bead, for the second bead, we'll actually put both ends of the wire through the bead like that. Okay? And this is the piece that we are going to put down through both layers of our star. So just kind of find that hole that you made with your pin and feed it down through. And we're ready for the next star. And now you'll get to see why we kind of need this long piece at the back of our project, why I cut such a long piece of wire. And the thing that I found is easiest to do as far as hooking this wire is to hot glue it. And so what I'm going to do now that I've got it through and I've got my finger holding it on the other side, I'm going to use my wire cutters and cut off a little bit of this extra. And then I'm going to splay out the legs of the wire. So I'm going to put one side of the wire on each side of the inside of my star and kind of try to make it as tight as I can inside of there so that it gives me a nice tight fit to the stars. So I can use my needle nose pliers and I can kind of push it down in there. That's why my husband says he has no tools anymore, as I use them all in my craft area. Okay, so once I have it nice and tight in there, now I'm going to take my hot glue gun, and it's a little bit tricky because it's kind of a tight workspace, but just going to go ahead and splurge some glue down in there, and don't worry about whether or not it's pretty because no one's going to see this part. And I like to again go ahead and take the needle nose pliers and push that wire down in there to get a nice tight fit to that wire so that my stars stay together exactly the way that I want them to. Okay, and we'll give that just a second to kind of start to set up, and I'm going to turn it over and again make sure that I have everything exactly the way that I want it. And I'm going to clean off my needle nose pliers because I'm going to need those in this next step that we're going to do. The next step is to make the hanger for the ornament, or for the, of course if you're going to use it for oops, if you're going to use it for a package topper, you don't need, you won't need the hanger. But I'm going to measure off again a nice big length of the ribbon. And I want to make sure that I have plenty because I'm going to do some twisting of my ribbon for the beads to make kind of a nice decorative effect. So make sure that you have plenty. Find those 2 hole punches that we did earlier and feed the wire through those. There it is. We'll go behind this top spoke and go to this one. And really the most important thing with this part is that you don't want to get the wire pulled too tightly through these spokes, otherwise it can kind of warp your spokes of your star and kind of misshape them. So there's the hanger going to the back. I'm just going to kind of fiddle with it here a second to get it like I want it. Okay. I'm going to use my finger to bring it up to the top like that so that we have a nice hanger. And then I'm going to start to add the beads that I want to decorate my hanger. And what I like to do is, again, use those needle nose pliers. Kind of pinch off an area where you think that you want it. Wrap the wire around a couple of times. And then slide it off. So now you have this cute little curlicue there, and that's going to be a nice bead stop for your beads. I'm going to feed on a couple of beads while my beads try to get away. Okay, so now we have our beads there, and if you want to keep them right there, you can go ahead and do another little curlicue. I like to give them a little bit of playroom, so I'm going to go up to the next spot where I want to add some beads, do a little curlicue again, and add my next set. For the video, I'm not going to add all the beads that I would add, but this just gives you an idea of something that you can do to decorate your hanger. Of course, if you're not hanging yours and you just like the wire effect, you can go ahead and add wire and just have the beads be kind of a pretty spray across the top for a package decoration. So then we would go ahead and do the other side, and when you get to the top, you just twist your 2 ends together, and then you can add another curlicue. This is always where I drop the needle nose pliers. You can add another curlicue to the end so that you don't have the pokey wire end sticking out. So you can kind of see what you'll end up with for your finished project. Of course, there's lots of decorative things that you can add to your ornament or to your package topper. Lots of ribbon would be pretty. Like I said, on the image, on the project that I did, oh, there goes another bead again. On the project that I did, I just decorated it with a digital image. So that is our project. I hope that you'll make some of these and decorate your tree. If you do, be sure that you take some pictures and send them in to us, because we'd love to see what you make. And we will see you again next time for our next video. Bye!